about um, depression, right? Taking a village to fight depression. Let's give her a big round of applause while she comes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here tonight to tell you that it takes a village to overcome depression. But first, I would like to thank Canute and the Health Ministry who invited me to be here today. I would like also to thank Pastor Nugent and Landon who've been helping, and James Malone, they've been helping to make this happening. So if you suffer from depression, I'm here to tell you that you are not alone. You are not alone. If yourself or your child, your spouse or a family member suffer with depression, you are not alone. I have some numbers to share with you tonight. In the US, depression is the leading cause of death among people ages 15 to 44. So the main reason why people die here is depression. In the world, more than 450 million people around the world suffer with mental illness or depression. That's a huge number. Okay. One second. I think I'm moving too fast. Let me go back. I'm trying to go back. How do I do that? I think I have to go that way. I got it. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. So each year, more than 45,000 people die with depression in the US. More than 45,000 people. That's more than the population of New York and Florida combined. For every suicide, at least 25 people attempt suicide, but they fail. We spend at least $69 billion yearly to fight to deal with suicide. And every day, 123 people kill themselves. Men, for some reason, they die more of suicide than women. However, women tend to be more depressed. I think the women, they will talk more to their friends, so they may get help more, but men die more of suicide than women. Now, although these numbers are very bad, they seem to be very high, but depression and mental health are underreported. That means the numbers are even worse. So because of the stigma attached with depression, people don't report their issues. We are afraid, we don't want to talk. We are ashamed of talking, so we do not talk. So although those numbers I just presented here are like bad, but way more people than what we know struggle, fight with mental health or depression. So what does these numbers mean for you? That means yourself, I'm sure someone here tonight or someone that you know, your child, your spouse, coworker or friend struggles with depression. And there's nothing, as I said before, to be ashamed of because depression is an illness like any other illness. If you suffer with high blood pressure or diabetes, you will talk to your friend, you go see the doctor. So if you suffer from depression, do not be ashamed. Do not be afraid. You can also talk about your issues because you are not alone. And as you know, it was in the news a few weeks ago. Anthony Bourdain just died. He killed himself. So this is a guy who has the best job in the world. I envy that man. Well, not envy, literally, but he has the best job. He was paid to travel, to eat, and be famous. Well, he was depressed and killed himself. Some people suggest that in the Bible, Elijah was depressed. Elijah was depressed. If you read 1 Kings 19, verses 3 to 7, Elijah was depressed. I think we have a mic down here. Do you want to read for me, Canute, that verse? Those verses 3 to 7.
I came to broom bush, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. I have had enough, Lord, he said. Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors. There he lay down under the bush and fell asleep. All at once, an angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and there by his head was some bread baked over hot coals and a jar of water. He ate and drank and then lay down again. The angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, "Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you."
So Elijah was overwhelmed. Elijah prayed to God to take his life. So some believe that Elijah was depressed. So if Elijah in the Bible was depressed, there's nothing to be ashamed of. And God came and rescued Elijah. He can do the same for you. And the next slide that I have is a quote from one of my friends, somebody I grew up with at church in Haiti. Last year, his son, who was 16 years old, took his own life. He took his life. Now, that child was a good child. He was involved at church, like any of the kids that we have here. He was a pathfinder, used to go to camp every year, and he took his life last year. So this is my friend's post on Facebook. It's only here because it's public. It's on Facebook. If something is on Facebook, it's not private. So that's why I'm posting his post here. I'm reposting his post. Canute, can we also read that slide for me?
16 years ago, God gave me a wonderful son. He was polite, handsome, loyal, intelligent, sometimes an introvert. He would occasionally surprise you with his sense of humor. I know he battled some depression and thought we could work it out. Never did I anticipate that he would take his own life. That is the worst pain a dad could feel. God has given and allowed for life to be taken away. Rest in peace, my son. You'll always be in my heart.
So this is the worst pain that her dad can experience, seeing his child taking his own life. So that's one of my friends, and that happened to him last year. So we're talking about this issue today because we are afraid, we are ashamed, we don't want to talk about our mental illnesses. Said before, if we are diabetic, if we are hypertensive, if we have those issues, we go to the doctor, we call a friend, we tell our church family members, hey, I'm sick, I was just diagnosed with high blood pressure. However, with mental illness, with depression, we do not want to talk. We are afraid because of the stigma attached with these issues. And I'm here to tell you today, do not be ashamed, do not be afraid. It's okay to talk because you are not alone. Maybe the person sitting next to you also struggles with depression. Maybe your boss struggles with depression. Maybe your coworker struggles with depression. So it's okay. If you have that issue, you cannot solve it alone. You have to talk. You have to seek help. You have to seek guidance. You have to turn to God. It's okay to talk. Depression is an illness like any other illnesses. Now, what is depression? For us to be able to address this issue, we have to understand what is depression. Depression is a mood disorder, like bipolar is a mood disorder. So depression is a mood disorder. So there are different types of depressive disorders. There's what we call major depressive disorder, for instance. It can be mild, severe, with psychotic features. With psychotic features, for instance, some people with depression can have hallucinations. They can be so severely depressed and impaired that they can hear voices, they may see things, they may feel things that other people do not see, hear, or feel. Dysthymia is a least severe type of depression. So we have different types of depression. So it's important for you to go to a doctor because based on what you're diagnosed with, that's important for proper treatment. So you need to see a doctor if you think you show some signs or symptoms of depression. Do not self-diagnose because you need a doctor to tell you exactly what you have so that you can receive the proper treatment that you need. So major depressive disorder, those are the criteria based on the DSM-5. Again, so many people feel down and they self-diagnose and say, I am depressed. Do not do that. It's important to seek professional help if you think you are depressed because the clinicians, the doctor, will be looking for some specific criteria to diagnose you with depression. So for you to be diagnosed with major depressive disorder, those are the criteria that you have to meet. Number one, you have to have more of the following symptoms, and in the next slide, you'll see the symptoms, and during a 2-week period. So if you're down for just one day, that may not be depression, because for depression, what we're looking for is for you to show the signs and symptoms of depression for a 2-week period. So you have to have your symptoms for at least 2 weeks. And then at least one of those symptoms is either depressed mood or loss of interest or pleasure. And then sometimes, right, if you have a physical illness, that may mimic the signs and symptoms of depression. So if you have some other issues, your doctor, your clinician will ask you questions to rule out any other issues, to rule out any physical issues. So these are the symptoms. Number one, depressed mood most of the day, almost every day. So almost every day you must be depressed. Depressed mood every day, most of the day. Number two, you have a diminished interest or pleasure in everything. So if you enjoy eating, for instance, you may stop eating. If you enjoy going out or going to the gym, if you're depressed, you may not be able to do those things. Depression is so severe. I had a client I worked with years ago when I worked as a social worker full time. She was so severely depressed that she could not even feed her children. She could not change her children's diaper. This is how depressed that she was. The person is so depressed that she cannot get out of bed. She cannot talk. She will not feed her child. She will not change her child's diaper, not because she was a bad mother, because she was simply depressed. And what happens when those things happen? Well, the CF will take your child away from you. So she lost custody of a child because of her depression. So what we see is that people with mental illness are often punished. They are by the system. They lose custody of their children. They get charged with crimes because they don't get proper treatment. We do not understand what they deal with. We do not recognize the signs and symptoms of depression, so they are not treated fairly. And people who deal with depression, well, they may gain or lose weight. If you're depressed, you may, because you're not eating, you may just lose weight. Or you may be overeating and gain weight. Those also are signs of depression. Or insomnia or hypersomnia. Insomnia, you're not sleeping, you cannot sleep. You're so depressed that you cannot sleep at all. Or you may be sleeping all day. So you either have insomnia or hypersomnia. Psychomotor agitation or retardation. When you are depressed, what can happen? You may be having those movements that are not voluntary. You're moving not by your own. Your muscles are just moving. Or the opposite may happen, that you have a slowness in movement. You cannot move properly. Or there's a fatigue or loss of energy. People who are depressed, they have no energy. They cannot talk. They cannot jump. They're like always tired. And the last one, I hope, feelings of worthlessness. You think that I'm hopeless. You feel guilty. You feel like, oh, I'm not good. I'm fat. I'm ugly. Nobody likes me. So you feel, those are signs and symptoms of depression. There's more. And people with depression cannot think or concentrate, right? You're so depressed that you cannot think. Your job may be affected because you go to work, you lose your job. Well, the issue is that you are depressed, you cannot concentrate. Or you are in school, you are failing your classes because of your depression. And you have those thoughts, you want to kill yourself. When you are depressed, usually people with depression may have suicidal ideation. You're thinking about killing yourself. You may have a plan, you may not. But if you have those thoughts of killing yourself, then you may be depressed. Now, it's one thing to have those symptoms, but they have to affect your life. That's why you cannot self-diagnose. If you have depression, you show some of those symptoms that were on the slides, but also they affect your life. In what way? They affect your relationship. If you're married, your wife, your husband does not understand that you are depressed, and you're having issues in the relationship because of your depression. Your children also, they don't understand that dad cannot go out, cannot go to the game with me. Dad does not want to do this. Dad does not want to do that. So your depression may affect your relationship, your social functioning. As I said before, your job. I had a coworker who lost his job. He was so depressed that he called one day crying. He was like behind with his notes, and I cannot come back to work. He was crying. So sometimes people with depression, you don't understand them. You're not sure what they are dealing with. So they are not performing well at work. So they may lose their job. So depression may affect all those things. There are also the legal issues, right? We are in a system, we criminalize mental illness in jail and prison. At least 50% of the population of our jails and prison are people with mental illness because we understand that they are sick. For instance, many people with mental illness are homeless and get charged with crimes like trespass, for instance, or panhandling, or because we don't give them treatment, so we charge them with crimes. So if you present all those signs and symptoms, or some of them, and they affect you, they affect your life, your work, your relationships, then you may be depressed. Now, dysthymia is a different type of mood disorder. It's less severe than depression. So you have some similar signs and symptoms, however, they are less severe. And for dysthymia, this is somebody who's always depressed, but less depressed for 2 years. So if you present those signs and symptoms not as severe as a major depressive disorder, and you have those signs and symptoms for 2 years, then you may be diagnosed with dysthymia. So those were two types of depressive disorders I wanted to share with you. Again, it's important to seek help because you need proper treatment based on what you're diagnosed with. Your doctor, your social worker, your psychiatrist, may know what you need. Do you know therapy, counseling, medications, right? It's important to know exactly what you're diagnosed with so that you can receive proper treatment. Do not self-diagnose because there are times when other issues will mimic the signs and symptoms of depressions. If you're using drugs, for instance, you may think you're depressed, but those issues may be result of your drug abuse. If you have a physical issue, a physical illness, that also, some of those signs and symptoms may appear to be depression. So it's important to talk to somebody to seek a professional's help before doing anything. And again, we've gone through all those signs and symptoms, as I said before, so I'm not, and it's late, I'm not going to go over those again. Now, what are the causes of depression? So before we can talk about treatment, why are we depressed? Why am I depressed? Why do I feel so down almost every day? Number one, depression is genetic. If your grandmother, if your mother was depressed, chances are that you will be depressed, right? So usually studies show that at least 40% of people with depression have a family members who's also depressed. So it's genetic. Situation induced. If you lose your job, right? You lost your job and you cannot pay your bills. You're losing your house. You cannot pay your mortgage. You cannot feed your children. well, then that may cause depression. So those are some of the causes and stress if you are stressed with work. So make sure you have a balanced life. If you have two jobs, you can barely sleep, you have your kids to feed and help with schoolwork and this, and you have so much going on, you're stressed out. Those also may cause you to become depressed. Chemical imbalances. Usually in depressed people, well, they have some chemical imbalances. So though, you need some chemicals to properly function. But when they are not at their optimal levels, then you can have depression. There are also some personality factors. Some people are so hyper, they are very resilient, maybe, even if they are going through hardship, hard time, they manage to bounce back, right? But some people who are maybe more negative, who always see the glass half empty, those people may be more prone to depression. Alcohol and drug use. Alcohol and drug never help. Never, never, never help. So if you're using alcohol or drugs, that can also cause you to become depressed. Physical illness. Let's say you're diagnosed with cancer. If you just learned that you're HIV positive, those things may contribute to your depression. Poor diet. Diet is important. You have to eat proper food. You have to have proper diet. And next month, I understand somebody will be coming to talk about diet. That's very important because in our food, we find all the nutrients that we need to be healthy, to be happy. So it's important to eat proper diet. If you have children, you have to make sure you feed them properly. Children don't like what's good for them, right? I'm Haitian, and I think Haitian food is the best food, and it is. I'm sorry, it is. But why do I feel that way? It's because growing up, I've always eaten Haitian food. My Jamaican friends were laughing, think Jamaican food is the best food. Why? Because this is what you've eaten all of your life. So your kids, at a very young age, you have to make sure you instill those values in them. You have to feed them properly, because even if at first they don't like vegetables, but if this is what they have every day, guess what? They will love vegetables. So I have a friend of mine recently, and her child was taken to the hospital and diagnosed with a seizure. Why? It's because he was not being fed properly. He doesn't like to eat. So he's eating chips and cookies all the time. So he was lacking some important nutrients, and he had a seizure. And that seizure was only because of poor diet. So if you have a child, it's important to make sure your child knows to get this proper amount of protein and vegetables, because those things will prevent not only depression, but other issues that he may develop later in life. And if you have other mental illnesses, that also may cause you to become depressed. Depression also can be a learned behavior. If in my society people get depressed whenever they have any issue, then depression can also be a learned behavior. However, if I live in a culture where we tend to be happy, we don't care, then I may have a lesser chance of becoming depressed. Gender, women, for some reason, tend to be more depressed than men based on the studies. So we as women, I guess, are less resilient, I'm not sure. But women tend to be more depressed than men. And there can be a combination of factors why people are depressed. Now, although it looks bad, okay, it's genetic, my personality, well, then there's no hope. Well, there is hope. You can prevent depression. Number one, get enough sleep, 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day, at least 7, right? You have to sleep properly. If you sleep, the right amount of hours, then you can prevent depression. Exercise solves so many issues. Exercise is important. Exercise. Sleep, exercise, diet, those are important. Find a passion in life. When we are busy, involved, we have a purpose in life, well, those things keep you going. If you're home all day, all night, on your couch doing nothing, then you may be more prone to depression. But if you have a passion, you eat healthy, you exercise, you go out, you have friends, that can help you prevent depression. Take time for fun. Take time to do something. And I know we are all guilty of this. We have a job or one full-time job. We are in school. We are involved in 5 ministries. You don't have time. You don't sleep. It's not healthy. embrace one or two causes that you like, but do not get involved in so many things that you don't have time for yourself, you don't have time to eat, you don't have time for your family. Then you may be more prone to depression. So you need to have a balanced life to prevent depression. One school, school, job, whatever, family, even at church, you don't have to be involved in well, we need to be in Hope Ministry. Jesse's listening. Hope Ministry, we should be part of this, but not all the ministries at church, right? Because those things are time consuming. Find your niche, find something that you like, but you don't have to be involved in everything. Practice self-care, right? Take care of yourself. Some professions, for instance, people in the health profession, they are very prone to being depressed, right? I know doctors, the number of depression is very high, and so it's very high. So be careful, take care of yourself, take time, relax, check, make sure, be self-aware, because if you're self-aware, you know your limits, you know when to stop. Attorneys also have very high rates of depression, I guess because it's a very competitive field. You're helping people, you're fighting all day, people will go to jail, they think you can help them, you cannot help them. And you see people being sentenced to life in prison, to the death penalty, people being deported, and you're trying to help them, you cannot. So based on our profession sometimes, or whatever, that can be very that can be very, very stressful. So make sure you know yourself, you're self-aware, and you check yourself, and you take care of yourself, because you need to have a very balanced life. Give back to society. The power of giving is greater than the power of receiving. When you help somebody, you feel good. When you help somebody, guess what? You're also helping yourself. So if you help a homeless person, right, you're also helping yourself. So take time to give back to society. Don't be selfish. Don't spend your money just for you, but help somebody else, and that will also help you feel good about yourself. With people with depression, sometimes you give them little tasks to do, go and help your neighbor, and they feel good, they feel happy, they feel, I've done something, I've helped society. So those things can help you. Be involved at church, in your community. As I said, you have to be connected with your friends, your family members, be involved. Stay connected to God. It's important. Prayer is powerful. So praying, right, will solve your issues. So make sure you pray, make sure you're connected to God and to other people. Build upon your strengths and be positive. Don't always see the glass half empty, see the glass half full. Let's say you fail your class, right? Well, maybe I need to study more, but I fell because I'm black, no, be positive, and those things can take you a very long way. And practice positive self-talk. Tell yourself, I am smart. I don't know, I'm wonderful. I'm a child of God. Try to take positively to yourself. Don't put yourself down. Don't let people put you down, but don't put yourself down. Think highly of yourself, because you're the child of God. We are king. We are princes and princesses, right? Princes and princesses. So we have to think highly of ourselves. Now, if you feel depressed, maybe it's too late, maybe you've already depressed, you're there already, okay, it's okay. If you feel depressed, it's okay. You are not alone. We are here to help you today. So if you feel depressed, seek help. Seek a counselor, a psychotherapist, talk to somebody, seek help, talk to a doctor. As I said before, do not self-diagnose, because Google is a good start, but if we Google what our symptoms, we will have so many things that we may be having. Do not Google. Go seek professional help. Medication. I know some people are against medications. However, if you are hypertensive, what do? You make sure you take your medication every morning, because if you do not, you may have a stroke, right? You make sure you take your medications every day. If you are diabetic, what do? You take your medication every day. If you are HIV positive, what do you do to stay alive? Take your medication. Well, if you have a mental illness, you may need to take your medication as well. Because what does the doctor do? The doctor weigh the benefits, right? And then if the benefits outweigh the negative stuff, well, then you may need to be on medication. So don't be afraid. Exercise, take care of yourself, eat healthy, turn to your support system, have somebody that you can talk to, have an arm. Again, I know we judge other people, so you don't have to trust the world, but have a good friend, someone that you can talk to who can just listen to you. And there are times when people call us, just listen. Sometimes we need somebody just to listen. If you have nothing good to say, just listen, because venting is therapeutic. So just call and talk to somebody that you trust. You don't have to tell the whole church about your business, but have that one family member, that one friend, that one church member that you trust that you can talk to if you're not feeling well. Be involved and take the time to pray. We're almost done because I know it's getting late. So remember, it takes a village to overcome depression. So if you are depressed, you are not by yourself. We are here to help you. Reach out. Ask for help. Do not be ashamed. Don't isolate yourself. Have a good support system. Be involved. Seek professional help. And make sure you turn to community resources. I'm not going to give you a list of resources here in Broward County, but 211 is always easy to, it's 211, 211. When you dial 211, if you need housing, if you need money to pay your bills, if you have any mental health issues, well, they will direct you. This is a very good resource here for Broward. They will direct you. So if you are depressed and you don't know where to go, call 211. They will be able to direct you, to connect you to a therapist. So remember, 211. That's easy to remember. If you have any issues, call 211. Pray, 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 pray. If you are depressed, talk to God. He will answer your prayers. So Brother Canute will read those 2 verses for us about the power of prayer.
Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus.
Amen. So as children of God, we're not meant to be depressed, right? God will give you peace. God will answer your prayers. He will attend to your every need. So make sure you talk to Him. Pray, 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 pray. And this is God's desire for you. He doesn't want you to be depressed. He doesn't want you to be unhappy. He wants you to be happy. We're almost in closing. There's a child I worked with years ago. She was a teenager. She was very depressed. Sometimes we just have to make small changes in our lives. She was depressed, and when I will go to the home to visit, all the doors were always closed. It's always dark. It's always dark, dog there. Then she's walking like she doesn't mean it. It's always dark. Mom, for some reason, she doesn't want the neighbors to watch, and she closed all the windows. It's dark. Then the kids did not eat properly. We just had to make some small changes to help, right? Open the door, let some light come in, change your diet. I will take her to the park, and we just walk and then tell her all those good things to help her build up her self-esteem and, do positive self-talk. And after a few months, you can see the change from that very depressed teenager, somebody who has more confidence, who can walk with confidence, and who was becoming less and less depressed. So sometimes you have to seek help so that professionals, they know what you may need, what they need to do, what they need to help you with so that you can be happy again. So that verse, this is God's desire for you. He wants you to be happy. He wants you to be in good health. Canute? You read that already?
Okay. Beloved, I pray that all may go well with you and that you may be in good health as it goes well with your soul.
So God wants you to be happy. He wants all to go well with you. He wants you to be in good health. And in closing, I'm going to ask you to stand, and we're going to do some positive self-talk. We're going to practice that. And that one is found in the Bible. God wants you to be happy. And you're going to repeat after me. I praise you, God, because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Amen. Thank you. Latoya. Yes? No? Is going to be next, I believe.
Yes. All right, as Dr. Malone comes forward, let's give Sister Cassandra a big round of applause again.